folks need to hear when someone says, do you take the word literally?
Right.
And, and the word, that was coming to me just hearing, and you said childlike,
Yes.
I was thinking that there's a certain vulnerability
Absolutely.
as believers that we have to have because he is our Father.
That's right.
And just having that sort of simple faith,
Right.
God says it, I believe it,
Right.
but then God also manifests it. He demonstrates it.
Yes.
So it's not like I'm just believing in some air, or I'm believing in something that is not possible.
Right. And that he personalized it.
Yes, he personalized
he showed me
it. Yeah.
in that event that he personalized
Yes,
it. Like
yes.
here I was pressing in and reading the scripture and standing on that exact word, that to the point where I was like, isn't it 100-fold to even say that to God, in your head? Like,
yeah.
Oh, I thought it was 100-fold,
Yeah. Well, I don't think that he was bothered.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But what came to me is realize that I know the desires of your heart, and I can personalize it for you.
Yeah. And I think what's incredible about that is that when you have that experience, that just sort of lays the foundation for future experiences.
Absolutely.
And this ability to trust him.
Yes.
And know that God, you came through once before.
Yeah.
You're going to come through again.
That's right.
Not just financially, but in so many
other
ways.
areas.
I can trust you with my children. I can trust you with my finances,
with
my marriage. Yeah, all of that. I can trust you. And so I think that's a wonderful message for our audience to hear.
I have a testimony about my marriage.
Yeah, well, let's go there.
Okay, when I got married, I had never been married before, and my husband unfortunately had a relationship that ended after 21 years, and he was raised Catholic and was going to church because I was going to church. And after about a year and a half, he went through the annulment process so I could get married in the Catholic Church, the whole thing. But about a year and a half or 2 years into our marriage, he said, I'm going to church for you. I'm not certain what my belief is. I'm questioning. And I told him it's okay to question. But ask the Lord, to reveal things that you're questioning. So I remember trying to talk to him about it. And then there was an evening where I felt like the Lord said, surrender it. Just lift him up to me. And I did, and I said, you know what? You've always come through for me in the past. So I'm just going to pray that you are growing his faith to my level or greater, and I would like a sign, Lord, that's happening, because it's so important to me. So the next morning, he wakes up, and he's singing a church tune in the shower. Now, I have to preface that by saying he never sings in the shower, let alone singing a church tune. So, I actually was laying in bed, and I started chuckling. Because I thought, God is showing me he has a sense of humor. That to me was funny. Yeah. Because of what he was saying the night before that was upsetting to me in my spirit. Yeah. And now he's singing a church tune in the shower. Yeah. So I actually went so far as to ask my Father in heaven to confirm that the singing of the church tune was in fact the sign that he was working on him. And he got ready for work and he left, and we normally talk in the afternoon, but that particular morning he called me 2 minutes after leaving the house singing another church tune into the phone to me. and really after that I had the confirmation. God gave me the confirmation I asked for. So ask and you shall receive, and I'm telling you, over and over it plays out because I trust in him. I've really surrendered it all to him. So I watched now. All of a sudden, my husband was asking for the Bible on CD. I'm going to listen to it, going to and from work. And then he would come home, and he's kind of a funny guy. Yeah. So he would tell me stories, and the God of the Old Testament's a little tough, Right. But he was learning. And then we had neighbors that asked us if we wanted to participate in with other couples. Reading and actually participating in Rick Warren's Purpose-Driven Community book. And so we did, and there were gentlemen in that group that are very strong in the Lord. So one of them gave him a tape that at the end you say the salvation prayer that I believe.
Yeah.
And he would come home and he would tell me, I listened to that tape, I'm listening, haven't said the prayer at the end yet, I'm like, okay, it's okay. You just, when you get it, it'll come, And so one day he came home and he goes, I said it, and I get it, So I remember just being like so filled with joy, and he's such a beautiful man, and I know the Lord put me with him. Actually, backing up before I met him, that's another time that audibly I heard, I was talking to a friend of his who actually ended up introducing us, that I had made a list of everything I wanted in the man that I would marry, and when he was describing my current husband, I heard the voice say, this is the guy for you. And it came at the exact moment that his friend was telling me that he had been married before, and I didn't think that the Lord wanted that for me. But I know what I heard. And let me tell you, it flowed like doors opening. It just was so divinely guided, even to the point of our wedding day. It was 99 degrees that week and 99% humidity. On the day of our wedding, it was 72 and sunny. And we took the carriage ride from Holy Name Cathedral over to the Drake for our reception. It was just blessed. And everything, the annulment came through in time. Everything just flowed. So, long story short, to share the way that God demonstrated that he heard and wanted to grant me the desire of my heart was 6 years into our marriage. Now I've seen all this growth in my husband's faith, and I'm just joyous about it. And I say to him, you know what, now that you have this newfound faith, I'd love to renew our wedding vows. And he said, that's fine, we could do it, but most people do it at like year 10, So I was like, yeah, you're right. And I just really let it go. But the morning of our anniversary, it was the first year of the 6 years that we were actually home on our anniversary, because every year we went away for our anniversary trip. And that particular morning, we were going away the following week. So that particular morning, I remember just really feeling a lot of joy in my spirit and love for the Lord. And we were getting ready for church, running late for Mass, and I said, we're never going to make it to church on time. This is the first time we've been in Chicago on our anniversary. I'm going to run and call Holy Name and see when's the next Mass time. Well, it just happened to be at the same time that we got married, 11 a.m., 6 years ago. So I tell my husband, we can get there in time, and I'm going to wear white like it's my wedding day all over again. And he's like, okay, I'll dress nice too. So we get in the car, and you have to know, from Park Ridge, if you hit traffic, you're not getting to the city in 25 minutes. But we got downtown in 25 minutes, a minute before 11, got into the cathedral and sat towards the front. And the bishop was saying Mass that day, and he said, as we sat down, he said, I'd like to make an announcement. There's a couple here from Park Ridge celebrating their wedding anniversary. And Ken looks at me and he says, did you call? And I said, no. I said, I called to find out the Mass time. I didn't tell them it's our anniversary. He said, celebrating their wedding anniversary of 60 years. Lou and Santa Niederkorn. Well, 2 months prior, I had met them for the first time at a fundraiser for muscular dystrophy. And Ken, my husband, knew their sons. So he said, oh, they're sitting up towards the front of the cathedral. After Mass, we'll go say hi. So that's what we did. After Mass, I went up to Santa, which means holy. And I said, Santa, did you get married here 60 years ago? And she said, no. My children arranged for the bishop to renew our wedding vows. And I said, we got married here 6 years ago today. She goes, well, maybe he'll renew your wedding vows too. So when the bishop came after greeting people, she said, Bishop, this is our friend, and they got married here 6 years ago. Would you renew their vows as well? And he said, sure. So we sat and watched them get their wedding vows renewed. And then here I am, dressed in white, to the hour, to the minute that I said my vows 6 years prior.
Yeah. Well, whoa, okay. So what
I gave me the desire of my heart. I renewed my wedding vows. I didn't even have a plan, and they actually took pictures of us. I, have a photo memory of it.
So we're hearing really just how God does here, how He communicates to us, and just how He, as we delight in Him, He gives us the desires of our heart. And so I do want to shift gears and talk about, you're a dietitian by profession.
Yes.
And I just want to make sure that in the time that we have, that we talk about how you have related being a dietitian to your faith, and you have you've developed these figure facts and what was sort of the motivation for all of that.
Okay. Well, I think, number one, choosing to be a dietitian. I was an athlete all my life. Felt as a child that I didn't really understand how to fuel my body, and as I explained a little bit earlier, went through a tough time with a little bit of compulsive eating. My mother had a little bit of that, and I was kind of following in those footsteps, and I didn't really understand how much food fuel my body needed. So when I was looking for a career and something to do, I actually was thinking I wanted to go into media work, and be an anchor for a news program. But my mother was like, you're always reading about nutrition and, looking at the diet books I buy, and maybe that's a field you should look into. And I was like, you're right. So I did, and I ended up doing a lot of media work about nutrition. So it kind of came full circle. Yeah, it connected. But I remember being in school and learning about fueling my body and thinking, wow, this is something everybody needs to understand and know. So the passion in my heart was ignited for helping others understand it and get it like I did. Because from that point forward, I never struggled with my weight or my eating patterns. That's how profound it was.
Yes.
And how it really changed my life. And so I, pursued a career. I got my master's in nutrition and medical dietetics from the University of Illinois. And it was actually during that time also I found out that I have a gluten intolerance. I started malabsorbing in my late 20s, about 26, 27 years old, dropped a bunch of weight, and when I was in graduate school, they were asking me questions because we had to go through this practicum where we ate everything at the school, and it was like a research project. And they collected, number one, number two, they collected things from us, blood, and we had to look at how our diet was impacting like our calcium level in our blood, how many days it took to go into negative calcium balance, and all these types of things I was learning. And they brought it to my attention that they kept having to increase my calories, and they were wondering if I was exercising like 2 or 3 hours a day, and I said no. So I figured out through that process and that examination that I was malabsorbing my nutrients because I was eating like a football player. And I remember living with my grandmother at the time when I was going through graduate school, and she was saying, you're always hungry, you're always eating. Like, being Italian, she kind of loved it. I mean, she would cook all day for me. But
Mangia.
But then I'd hear her on the phone with her friend, going, I don't understand, she's like this. And she's eating so much. So I just started learning clinical nutrition. I got my first job at University of Illinois Hospital, and I remember feeling guided to really read the charts of my patients, to understand how the doctors were diagnosing the issues that their patients were having, so that I, as a dietitian, could really be, in my approach, understanding of what they were going through. And it made me a very strong clinician. When I started working the outpatient nutrition clinic, or running the outpatient nutrition clinic at Rush Medical Center, I was able to then take that knowledge and would get revelation about things that this person was experiencing, or I would pick up on some symptomology like horsiness, or inflammation in the throat, and then had a relationship with the doctors there to ask them, could you test them? I'm noticing this. Can you look into it?
So you were kind of discerning what was going on.
I was discerning what was going on with them, and I really cared about my patients. There was a love in my heart for the people that I was working with, that I committed when I became a dietitian to treat my clients as if they were my own brother or sister.